Hello and welcome to the Lassie Mission podcast. I'm your host for today, Britt Myers, and I'm so excited to be joined by our guest, Army veteran Rick Welch. Thanks so much, Rick, for being here and being part of the podcast with us today.
Hey, Brittany, thank you so much for having me.
Of course. And for those who might not know, we have featured some of Rick's story on Mission Roll Call's website. It's called Fighting for Care in Rural America. So if you want to check that out too, after you're done listening to the podcast, we welcome you to do that. And so, Rick, let's jump in with what you can tell us about your military career, maybe what inspired you to join and kind of what that experience was like for you.
I had always been interested in joining the military. Right out of high school, I picked a different avenue. I was going to party, tried a little colleging, found out I was better at partying than I was at college. Ended up, found out I was going to be a father. So went ahead and joined the military in 2003, July 2003. Enlisted as a 19 Delta Cavalry Scout. It was the first thing leaving. I had to provide for these children.
Mm-hmm.
Great group of guys, 2 deployments, got out in 2009. Just kind of been living the life since then. Used the GI Bill after the military, got an associate's degree in heating, ventilation, air conditioning from Central Texas College.
Awesome.
Have moved up to Lubbock since then. Am a truck part salesman for a Freightliner dealership. Funny way of saying it is I like to say I'm in research and procurement specialist of a subsidiary of Daimler Trucks North America.
Does that fit on a t-shirt? It should.
I mean, it really should. But it's funny when I say that and people catch it and they're like, what do you really do? I sell parts for big rigs.
Well, you just summarized like a decade of your life pretty quickly, but I think there's probably a lot that happened in your time in service. And something you had already shared previously was that you really formed this band of brothers, for lack of a better term, with those you served with. And what I think is really cool is that you guys tried to stay connected post-service, right? And kind of be there for each other and still check in. And why do you think that was something that was important to you all?
That's something important to us. And you know, any of the veterans know exactly what I'm talking about. A lot of the civilians, they don't understand it. You have your high school friends and you have your general everyday friends, but when you train as a unit and you deploy as a unit, you know, they're not friends anymore. At that point, they become brothers, family, and you know, we look out for each other. We worry about each other, even after we've discharged through these years. You know, every veteran goes through something a little bit different, and we lost a few guys, and you know, it seemed that the few that we started losing, we started keeping in touch more, like we were brothers, and we made the effort to get together and see each other and call each other on the phone just to tell them, "Hey, dude, I miss you and I love you." Um, it just it's a whole new family, and it's by bonds that put us together for life. You know, we've all got out, we've all gone our different ways. Some of the most hardcore war seasoned individuals that I know are now principals of middle schools, elementaries, and high schools. Some of them are pilots, and I'm like, wow, this is pretty cool. You know, and keeping in touch and with your brothers and everything, it's really what keeps you on your best. Because even with the VA and the services that they do offer, sometimes it's not in a timely manner. Even if they're utilizing the community care, there's still some scheduling conflicts, some waiting times, but your brothers are always there. And I am one to testify. It doesn't matter what time of the night that you're calling them, they always answer and they'll sit and talk with you.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
really cool.
That's really special. And, you know, we can tell from your accent, you might pull out some of my Southern Ohio coming out. Are you originally from Texas?
I am. I was born and raised North Richland Hills. 1981. Moved from there when I was 12, about an hour south to Rio Vista
Hmm.
in Johnson County, just south of Cleveland, Texas. Graduated 2001. Like I said, kind of farted around plumbing, Joe jobs, trade work for a couple years. 2003, I enlisted in the military. Um, Immediately, I told them I need the first thing leaving, and so they sent me over to Fort Knox, Kentucky, to train as a United States Cavalry Scout.
Hmm.
Showed up on my birthday, July 27th. Left just a little bit before Thanksgiving. It was nice training. Very humid out there. Very beautiful part of the country. Um, Received into Fort Hood in December, and we were starting up a unit. We were standing up the 8th Squadron, 10th Cavalry Unit, and the 4th Brigade Combat Team of the 4th Infantry Division. And of course, that is when the 4ID was in Fort Hood. Um, we trained, and we had the best time. It really was the best time. We deployed in '06 to Baghdad, Iraq, and we did a year's worth of duty there. And then we came back. 810 actually disbanded. And so we had a bunch of brothers. They went over to the 19. I went to the Special Troops Battalion for the 4th Infantry. I was selected, volunteered and selected. My second deployment, we got to, we were a personal security detachment for the Division Sergeant Major. And it wasn't as much action as my first deployment, but it was a lot more truck time and visiting time. Being with the Sergeant Major, we had to go not only all around Baghdad, but all the outlying areas as well to
Okay.
visit all of those soldiers. And it
Hmm.
was our duty to keep the top brass protected. And after the completion of that one, I got on out. And I said, it's time to get on out and let's see this. It's, I do miss the military. But personally, at my time, there was problems in my marriage. I wanted
Hmm.
to be home. I wanted to be by my children. You know, there's that age-old saying: if the army wanted you to have a family, we would issue you one.
Yeah.
So, made it a little challenging. And I chose the family life over that. Unfortunately, the marriage didn't work, but that's okay. You know, these things happen. But
Hmm.
my kids spent every waking moment with them. I've never regretted the decision I made to exit the military.
That's so special. I think I came up in a military family with both my parents serving, and similarly, my parents' marriage was never gonna. I think my mom's on like number five, right? It just was not gonna happen. And that's okay. Just like you said, those things happen. But my dad decided to get out and let us kind of have a normal childhood, not be moving around, and it was probably the best thing that ever happened to us. And it was cool because probably similar to your kids, we grew up military connected. So I've always had a deep respect for the military. And so is my dad is still a big patriot. But we still got to have him and have kind of that traditional childhood. And so it was cool to have both sides, which I'm sure your kids could relate to.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's special. It's funny too also that you went back to Texas, right? So you're like from Texas and you're at Fort Hood.
Oh yeah, I'll never leave my little country. Texas through and through.
Well, even the army couldn't get you out of there. This kept sending you back.
Yeah, they tried.
Yeah.
As I understand, and it's still a legend, Fort Hood is a black hole. Once you go there, you'll never leave.
Well, when you did transition and did you go straight back to Lubbock after you left the military?
No, initially, once I separated from the military, I signed up to go to college. I used my GI Bill.
Great.
And my wife Amanda was working the time at the college as a administrations for helping the students get into college. So it was kind of streamlined getting me in, which is real nice. I did 2 years there. Actually, I stretched out a 2-year degree to 2.5 years. So I wasn't in no hurry.
Boy, yeah.
being that it was HVAC and refrigeration, a lot of the classes were held at night, like a trade school style. And so that gave the daytime to where I would kind of hold down the house with the laundry, the cleaning, and everything. I got the kids up into school. I picked them up. We went and had fun. And then about the time that she would get off and get home, we'd have about an hour. I'd have dinner started or ready. And then I would go to classes, and it worked that way for a while, and it was wonderful. The transition part of it was not that bad because the bulk majority of my classmates while I was in college, specifically in my refrigeration classes, were veterans as well. Whether
Awesome.
they were short-time veterans like me or they were fresh retired, career-long service and looking to get a little bit of something under their belt. That really did have a good helping hand on it.
Hmm.
When, as like I said, I never served with these fellas, but quickly we've been through the same thing, so we formed a bond as well, and I keep up with a lot of them as well.
That's really cool. Yeah, because in that part of Texas, are there a lot of veteran groups? Like, do you guys have a VFW or American Legion, or were you mostly just staying connected with those you were kind of already in social circles with?
Kinda in the social circles with. I'm not a member of the VFW or the American Legion. Um, I don't know why. I've thought about it for years. Want to, I just never get over there.
Hmm.
Um, I guess in a nutshell, I'm getting old and I don't like to drive all the way across town.
That is an
It,
old person thing to say.
man, it happens. It happens. Even though this is Lubbock, Texas, and it only takes 15 minutes to get across town.
Still 15 minutes.
It sure is.
Yes. How long did it take you to get affiliated with the VA? Because that was something that we talked about with your written story was you've had kind of ups and downs, peaks and valleys.
I had initially went to the VA and set up a claim for, I believe it was my ears, my back, um, a couple other things, and was instantly denied.
Hmm.
And so I was like, well, what do I do? And they said, well, this is just it. And so I had went to visit, kind of essentially gave up on it.
Yeah.
And I went to visit my wife one day at work for lunch, and I ran into one of my old NCOs, Sergeant Wagner. And Sergeant Wagner was telling me that he had been to the veteran service officer. Her name was Willie Brown, and she worked in Harker Heights at the vet center. And when I say this old lady was a mean go-getter, she knew exactly what was going on.
Willie
And
Brown sounds like she gets stuff done.
she
That's
got stuff done. She said, bring me all of your paperwork. She read through it in about 2 minutes. She spent 1 minute filling out two pieces of paper, put it in an envelope, and said, mail this to them. A month and a half later, I was rated at 30%. And she had told me, bring back all the paperwork that they give you. And I took it back. And the hell with these sons of bitches, that's not enough. And she pulled out two more pieces of paper, wrote whatever she needed on there. She was highly skilled at the vernacular and the way that you need to say these things to the VA, because then it came back with a 40% rating. And over the next 9 months, she ultimately got me up to 80% disability. But then unfortunately, about that time is when I moved up here and I heard that Miss Willie had passed away in a car accident.
um,
Been kind of stuck at 80. I've been going through the VA. I've got 3 denials so far on my back, and
yeah.
it is just jacked the hell up. So, of course, it's the VA game. They make it, they don't say they do, but you can ask anybody. They make it to where it's so many hoops and ropes to jump across and red tape to go through that you really get the feeling and the realization that they make it so hard for you to give up.
Hmm.
But there's other veteran service officers out there. We don't know who they are, but they're out there somewhere. Some people that know the verbology, some people that know how to navigate the system on there. Um, then again, a bunch of my buddies are seeking legal help. and we see their ads everywhere, and they're swearing up and down, this'll do it, this'll do it. It's a time and a patience game. It's ultimately a game of chess.
Yes.
You got to know how to play it.
Yeah, and the VA's Magnus Carlsen, sounds like.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
What are you dealing with that has kind of been a lingering effect of your time in the military? I know you mentioned your back, but I think also you had some hearing loss and things like that that really impact your day-to-day life. I think that's something that people might not realize is you don't have to have, this physically glaring wound from your time in service to have been injured or to have something that's staying with you post-service.
Correct. There's a couple instances over there, a couple of hairy situations, and they will stay with you. You more than likely will develop the PTSD. The thing about the PTSD, though, is for me, you never know when it's going to hit. You never know what is your trigger until you find out that's a trigger. And then by that time, once you realize it, you're upset, you've been yelling, you've been in a bad mood for however long.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes it challenging in life. Ways that I've had to overcome that. Once I find out the trigger, I try to accept and embrace the trigger.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I said, I never knew that flies could trigger PTSD, but there are so many flies overseas, in Baghdad, and I never could. I was like, man, this is just horrible. Well, once we had a good rain here in Lubbock and the flies were just out over by the feed yard, I got a little bit touchy that day and it was triggered. And I was very upset, did not know it.
Mm-hmm.
I really can't control flies. You can try. So I'm not going to say I embrace the little gross things. Be mindful that, hey, they're a little bit part of nature. As gross as they do serve a purpose. So just try to be mindful that we have to share this world with them.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah. That really shows a lot of self-awareness of yourself. I mean, being even able to make that connection of this thing, why am I edgier today? What is tripping me up a little bit? And to be able to identify there's this common theme. I mean, it's great that you have that level of awareness.
It really is very proud moment whenever you start realizing stuff like that is that you actually get a little bit of self-hope.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have no problems asking for help or guidance or can you steer me in a direction where I can go talk about these things. But when you have that self-realization, hey, I've got to make the best of this and see how I can make it work.
Mm-hmm.
Works it's really a personal growth and your own mental expanding and acceptance of the world that everything is going to be just a little, it's not going to be okay, but it's going to be a little bit better and a little bit easier,
Mm-hmm.
and there is hope out there. And a lot of people said hope is a dangerous thing, Andy Dufresne, but hope can be a beautiful thing once you find it.
Right. Well, and I bet through your band of brothers and through this community that you've built that you guys have been able to kind of share some of those things with each other too, right? And to be able to say like, hey, this is something like I'm going through, or this is something I noticed, and being willing to have those conversations. Just for one thing, it takes a lot of guts to be able to drop the guard a little bit, especially with like your bro friends, right? But to be able
Yeah,
to say like, hey, this is something that came up for me that I noticed, and there's a lot of power in that.
there is. And one thing that'll work for you might not work for your buddy. So we've learned, or I've learned and I've noticed that anytime I do seek refuge with one of my guys, is they've never tell me what to do. They say, man, this is something that works for me. It might be an avenue for you to explore.
Mm-hmm.
Times out of 10, it works for me too.
Yep.
And likewise, the guys come to me and I'm like, I can't tell you what to do, but I can tell you what helps me and I can be there and help you through this. And a couple times it's like, hey man, why don't you come on into town, spend a week with me, man? I'll take off work and let's just hang out.
Aw, that's awesome. Yeah, do you have some in your area? Because I know you're kind of spread out.
I think the closest one I have to me is going to be Myers, and he's out in Grand Junction, Colorado. Now,
Wow.
I'm frequently keep up with him. I believe that Travis Aiken, he might still be down in the Coppers Cove area,
Okay.
but I haven't spoken with him in many years. I've messaged him a couple times, and he's messaged back. I'm not saying we had a fallout. I'm just saying that on my first divorce, she got him.
Oh, man.
He was friends with Sharada, which is his wife, and I get it. I'm like, hey, brother, I still love you. Call me.
Mm-hmm.
But we've kind of fallen off. But about once or twice a year, we'll drop a note. Hey, brother, just thinking of you and I love you.
Thank you for joining Britt Myers and Mission Roll Call as we speak with Army veteran Rick Welch. This concludes part 1 of this episode. Join us for part 2, coming to all channels of The Lasting Mission later this month. For more information, visit missionrollcall.org.